Good morning, folks. Welcome to the lecture summary for this week's lecture, April 6th. We're going to be talking about field experiments. This is one of the major sociological or social sciences methods. I assume that nobody did a field experiment for their own research because it's difficult to coordinate. I understand that. So, the main thing about field experiments is that the research subject is supposed to be completely unaware that an experiment is taking place. Even if you announce that there's an experiment, your experiment should be fake and it's kind of a bait and switch. Because if a person knows about an experiment, if I walk into a room and I say like, hey, everybody in this room, I'm dressed really funny, so I'm doing an experiment right now to see how you react to how I'm dressed right now. Okay, go. It doesn't work. The experiment no longer works. You have to just walk into the room and see how people react. And so I want you to know the basics of a classical experiment. The fact that you usually want to do one run with a control group, meaning you're not adding the stimulus, you're not adding anything to the environment that people will react to. And then you do the experiment itself, where you add something to the environment and you see how people react to it. So there's two videos that I want you guys to watch. One is just a very quick, candid camera. It's meant to be a joke, but it's a real experiment that was done on people in an elevator, and it wouldn't have worked if people knew that there was an experiment happening. And the second thing is I'm going to choose a video from ABC's What Would You Do, which has been around for like 20 years, 22 years or something like that. It's a great set of experiments because they deal with really heavy social issues. It's like real sociological bent to it. They deal with really heavy social issues. Usually actors act out a certain thing and then people around the actors are reacting to them. That is an experiment. They tell them about it there afterwards, but that is something that comes with. So please pay attention to those videos. I'll include them in the emails and in the announcements. And otherwise, in that lecture, I definitely also want you to know about the Hawthorne experiment, because you need to know what the Hawthorne Effect is. And how that went was that this electronics plant in the 1930s, they wanted to measure worker satisfaction. They wanted to see if workers are more satisfied with their job, if they improve the conditions of that job. And the measurement was odd because they felt that a person would be more satisfied with their job if they start working harder. I don't know if that really expresses satisfaction, but that's what they were going with back then. The problem with that, obviously, was the boss, the owner of the factory, came in the day before the experimenters came and said, guys, there's going to be some psychologists here tomorrow. They're going to be measuring worker satisfaction. Just act normal and everything will be fine. And what had happened was the next day, the researchers came in and they turned up the lights in the factory. And everybody that was working on the factory floor was like, uh-oh, we're being watched. So they became more productive. And the researchers were like, this is great. Look at that, we turned up the lights and people got more productive. But they were only being more productive because they knew that they were being watched. It actually ruined the experiment. So, hence, the Hawthorne Effect. Secondly, and most importantly, April 20th is the due date for the methodology section. I have something under assignments on Blackboard, a set of directions, and a portal for you to submit to it. But just as a set of summary notes, the methodology section is speaking to how you plan to do your research. The methodology section should be written almost entirely in the future tense. You're speaking into the future. Now again, we're playing pretend. We're pretending there's no coronavirus. We're pretending that you're still going to be doing all of this research over the next year or so, or whatever. So in your methodology, I want you, in 2 pages or whatever, 2 to 3 pages, I want you to identify who you're going to be talking to. Where are you going? What field are you going to? Again, there's no coronavirus in this fantasy. How long will this take? What kind of supplies do you need? What kind of questions will you be asking? If you are doing survey or questionnaire, include your questions. No answers, but just include the questions in your methodology section. And again, you're speaking into the future and you're speaking to how you are doing your research, how long it will take, what methods you identify your methods. Please identify why you're choosing those methods and why those methods are better than others. And then most importantly, a good methodology section is going to include some operationalization. So if you look at the directions, I put up the definition for operationalization again. And what's being done there is that with operationalization, you're providing a definition for exactly how things will be measured. So if I'm doing a study on recidivism, I need to define recidivism in a very specific way. So I'm going to say something like, recidivism, the way I'm measuring recidivism is that it's any arrest that happens in the first 36 months after a person has been released from prison. It's very specific. And it's specific for that reason, so that another researcher can pick up your research and do the exact same research, and they should get the same results because of how specific the definition is of how things will be measured. So for all of you in your field notes, there are words in there that I'm going to be letting you know that like you need to define or provide an operational definition for this word. And you know, hopefully in the next couple days, I'm going to be letting all of you know what those words are in your field notes that require a definition. The other example that I usually give is Alcoholics Anonymous, and they have this goal of achieving sobriety. That's their goal. Sounds fantastic, right? But what do you mean? What do they mean by sobriety? How do you measure sobriety? Is sobriety mean I haven't had a drink in an hour, I'm sober? No. Or it could be if you want it to be. What is achieving sobriety? Does that mean, so an operational definition for sobriety would be something like not consuming a single drop of alcohol for a calendar year, or not consuming any alcohol for 30 days. It's very specific, and it requires things to be specific in order for this research to work. So please, April 20th, is when it's due, and April 20th is also the day that I'm going to be putting up a lecture on the literature review. There's no lecture for next week, okay? I'm sticking to the syllabus. No lecture for next week. The next time you'll see a video from me will be on April 20th, and by April 20th, I would like you guys to hand me a draft of your methodology. I'm going to send you feedback, okay? Just get something to me on April 20th, and I will give you feedback. It's the exact same rules. You hand me something on April 20th, not just a blank piece of paper with your name on it. Please do not insult me. Please don't do that. Try to write your methodology section. You get an A if you get it to me on April 20th. It's pretty straightforward. You get 10% of the grade. So please do that, and I will send you feedback. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the 20th. Take care.